In the global theater of geopolitics, the relationship between the United States and China stands as one of, if not the most complex and consequential. As the two largest economies globally, China and the US, with respective GDPs of approximately 18 and 27 trillion US dollars, their interactions have far-reaching implications for global stability and prosperity. In recent years, the relationship has been marked by escalating tensions, with issues ranging from trade disputes to technological rivalry and geopolitical disagreements. This has led to a growing discussion around the question: is war between China and the US inevitable? In this video, we will explore the origins of the current relationship, explain the present circumstances, and potential future scenarios. Firstly, what is the background of the current tensions? The tensions between China and the United States have a complex history. In 1949, when the People's Republic of China was established, the US initially supported the exiled Republic of China government in Taiwan, leading to limited relations with mainland China. The Korean War from 1950 to 1953 further strained relations, as China supported North Korea against the US-backed South Korea. The war began when North Korea, supplied and advised by the Soviet Union, invaded South Korea. The United Nations, with the United States as the principal participant, joined the war on the side of the South Koreans, and China came to North Korea's aid. After more than 1 million combat casualties had been suffered on both sides, the fighting ended in 1953, with Korea still divided into two hostile states. The issue of Taiwan has also been a significant source of disagreement, with the US supporting Taiwan, but not to the extent that it would provoke China to completely cut ties with the US. The US also, to better its relations with China, severed formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan and established diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China in 1979. However, the US continues to maintain a robust unofficial relationship with Taiwan. In the event of a Chinese invasion, many experts have also debated if the US would come to Taiwan's aid, which definitely would spark a major global war. Trade has also been a significant factor in the relationship between the two countries. The US-China Relations Act of 2000 granted Beijing permanent normal trade relations with the US, paving the way for China to join the World Trade Organization in 2001. This led to a significant increase in trade between the two countries. However, trade disputes have also been a source of tension, particularly since 2018, when the US, led by President Trump, imposed additional tariffs on Chinese goods. These trade tensions have negatively affected both countries, with tariffs reducing trade and causing economic strain. Territorial disputes in the South China Sea have also contributed to the current relationship. In recent years, China has increased its efforts to reclaim land in the South China Sea by physically enlarging islands or creating new ones altogether, constructing ports, military installations, and airstrips. The United States has challenged China's assertive territorial claims and land reclamation efforts by conducting freedom of navigation operations and bolstering support for Southeast Asian partners. Furthermore, China's ascension to a global superpower status, characterized by its remarkable economic growth, increased military expenditure, and expanding global influence, has naturally led to heightened tensions with the United States, the other dominant global superpower. In essence, the tensions between China and the US are multifaceted, deeply rooted in historical, political, and economic contexts. So, how is the current relationship and standing between the two superpowers? In recent years, the relationship between the two countries has become increasingly strained. The US has deepened its ties with Taiwan, and there are concerns that China's growing military capabilities and assertiveness could lead to a conflict. Additionally, the trade disputes initiated under the Trump administration have yet to be resolved, and there have been further tit-for-tat sanctions and trade restrictions. But there are also some positive signs. Recently, President Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China held a summit in California. This was their first meeting in about a year since their last encounter in Bali, Indonesia. The meeting was characterized as constructive, with discussions on a range of bilateral and global issues, including areas of potential cooperation and differences. Although this may sound positive, there is an ongoing military and economic race. As the two largest economies, they together represent 40% of the global output. China has been closing the gap with the US in many economic areas, and even overtaking it in some. Still, the possibility of the Chinese economy overtaking the US economy is uncertain. with the Chinese economy recently slowing down. According to Bloomberg Economics, it may take until the mid-2040s for China's GDP to exceed that of the US, and even then, it will happen by only a small margin, before falling back behind. In terms of defense spending, the US continues to outspend China, with the Department of Defense budget of $842 billion, more than double that of China's official figure of about $240 billion. However, it's important to note that the US military is not solely focused on deterring China, but also has commitments to deter Russian aggression against NATO and to reassure allies in the Middle East. In terms of military capabilities, while the US still holds an overall advantage, China has been closing the gap in many critical areas. For instance, China has built up a larger fleet in terms of numbers, but the US has more aircraft carriers. However, some experts argue that China cannot challenge US military primacy due to a technological gap and the lack of experience in modern warfare. Moreover, the military race between the US and China is not just about who has the most advanced weapons or the largest defense budget, it's also about strategic positioning, alliances, and the ability to project power globally. As such, this competition will likely continue to evolve. So, what are the potential future scenarios that could occur? One possible and alarming scenario is a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, which could prompt a response from the United States and potentially involve Japan and South Korea. This would definitely result in a major conflict, leading to a collapse in the global economy. Although the prospect of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan seems terrifying, there is an ongoing debate among experts about whether China will actually follow through with its threat to reclaim Taiwan using military force. A more optimistic scenario could be characterized as collaboration in the midst of rivalry. With Xi Jinping now 70 years old, there's a possibility for a leadership transition in China in the near future. This scenario imagines a new cadre of leaders in both nations who prioritize addressing future challenges over lingering on past disputes. The probability of this scenario would likely depend on the extent of Xi Jinping's influence over his successor. In my perspective, considering the significant role of nuclear weapons, the most probable outcome is a sustained military, strategic, and economic competition, much like the circumstances during the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the US. In conclusion, while the war between China and the US is not inevitable, the potential for conflict remains due to the ongoing tensions and disagreements.